Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It's Drew the Smash back at you with another video here on the YouTubes. We got a special video for you guys today. But with that being said, let's dive right into it. So today, this is not any of our Dynasty series that we're going on. But with that being said, this is going to show you how to best recruit for your personal dynasties. Now, with that being said, this is my recruiting method. It's worked extremely well for me, whether I'm playing NCAA 14, revamped, anything of the sort. I just picked Nebraska here. But this is my strategy for every single dynasty I've ever done. This is my strategy that I've perfected that's helped me go on to win national titles, that's helped me identify the players that I really want, and we're going to walk you guys through that here today. Alright, so first couple things I want to go through is as far as coaching skill tree goes. I gave myself max level 20 just to give you guys a good representation of everything. When you're starting your dynasty, I would recommend starting your coach out at level 3 just so that way you have full scouting capabilities right from the get-go. Then from there, based on how quickly my coach is upgrading and your rate of progression speed, I then would look to try and get some more points for the opener and closer, as well as royal treatment. I have found to be a huge bonus for when it comes to getting recruits signed, and I'll go over the strategy behind that. These next ones obviously pertain more so to just helping, again, progress more recruits, so forth and so on. But then the other setting that I like to have on is, because I like to have full control of it, is all of the computer assistance is turned off when it comes to recruiting. Again, I take a very personalized approach with this, so that is what I do because I don't need the computer fucking up my stuff. Alright, straight up. Alright, anywho, so we're logged into preseason recruiting here. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the search tab. And interest in Nebraska, I always start with this. We're going to go our top 3 schools. Now, with that, um, you can expand it obviously to top 5. 10's a little bit of a stretch. I personally like top 3 because these are going to be guys that we can recruit and look to bring in at a relatively, um, kind of low effort, if you will, type of recruiting method. So we're going to go in here. We're going to just select some of these guys to look to. Ultimately, we're just looking at kind of overalls here. Briefly looking at kind of when it comes to linemen, my strategy is I want big linemen. Ideally 6'4" and above. I'll go 6'3", 6'2" for my interior guys, but my tackles are always going to be at least 6'5" at the min, 6'4" at the absolute lowest. D tackles are realistically right now. It's solely identifying people based on overall speed, height, and weight. Is kind of the main things we're going to be looking at. Again, overalls are by far the most important. We'll get into the actual like ratings of guys as we look to sign some guys. So ultimately what I aim to do is I want my starting recruiting board to be 20 prospects that are top 3 interested or more. When you get into the bigger schools, as you saw, Nebraska had 100 guys here that were interested as a top 3 school. So we were able to fill 29 guys that actually looked of interest to me. So the reason I say you need at least 20 is because that's where your starting scout, that's how far your scouting starting points will get you, is 20, with that 1,000 scouting point bonus that you start with. And again, starting at level 3 gets you guys 100% scouted on these guys right from the get-go, and you have a gist of what you're at. So we've got through number 20, and all of our top 20 guys are recruited. Jacob Davis could be a developmental type player. We got 3 good tackles. This guy sucks. Justin Cross, too slow for my liking in particular. Seth Harris, kind of same story. So forth, so on. Fullbacks, I could give 2 shits about fullbacks, to be honest. Of what their overall is, just based on the offense that I like to run in my dynasties. So there we go. And then obviously we need to make sure we fill this out to a 35 person board. So first thing is I'll always go to athletes, sort by their 40 time, and try and pluck as many. If they're JUCO junior, I don't mess with them. Sophomores, I will. But no, we want to try and add. I love having speed on my roster. So with that, I always aim to go speed, and specifically the athlete position, because a lot of times you get multifaceted type players that can do that allow you to fill holes a little bit more easily. So then from there, I'll go look at kind of the wide receivers, halfbacks as well. Again, speed being the biggest thing. Then the other position I like to go look at is a linebacker. Got a couple of 4-4 linebackers there, so like the side of that we'll add to the board, and then we have our full 35. Rest of this don't care about. That's not the point of this video. Alright, so we will advance all this stuff through real quick. Again, we're going to let the CPU handle everything unless it's recruiting based. That's the only thing we're touching this video. Obviously when you're playing, you got to kind of figure out, what strengths and weaknesses you personally want on your team. I like to have big physical offensive linemen, but also you got to match that with skill, right? You might take a slightly smaller offensive lineman that weighs a little bit more, that is going to progress more so in your favor. So again, it's about kind of figuring out your own personalized approach. I just wanted to show you guys mine. Again, it's been very effective for me. So alright, we're in week 1 here, so we're going to go through and we're going to scout the rest of the board. We do this because I want to know everybody's overall before we even start to target them. I need to know exactly what kind of fit this person could be for my program, and having a great scouting on all 35 of these guys to start is going to pay huge dividends for how our roster is going to shape out over the long haul. So with that, then after we do that, we're going to just scroll through here, see if there's any kind of like no-brainers that, like Todd Hall, no-brainer, off the board. Andrew Crowder, 94 speed. That is the type of guy you could develop. So he'll stay on the board. Again, if I'm at a Power 5 school like Nebraska, the lowest I'll look as far as overall will go be a 66, 68. As you can see, I'm keeping Zach Morris and Paul Doughty down here, mostly because, you're finding 88 speed linebackers is not going to come around every single day, let alone in Zach Morris's case where he's 6'6", 240. Paul Doughty, 6'2", 231. Again, you could find that, but nonetheless, their athletic traits are, the biggest thing. I could care less about their speed, finesse moves, power moves as an outside linebacker in those instances, mostly because, again, right now we're trying to build we're in year 1 of this, for example. So, We're trying to build a true program. So, with that, after we kind of finalize our board here, we're going to go through and we're literally going to offer scholarships to every single person we have on our board. We are not going to waste any time with this because even if, mostly because the guys that we we may not want to put point we may not have the ability, I should say, to put points in them right away. So because of that, the scholarship plus the bonuses are what are going to kind of carry us to the finish line a little bit when it comes to recruiting those players. However, that does give us less points to start with in week 1. Now, with where are we going to allocate our points? So Mark Ryan, 5-star player. We're going to throw 400 points into him to start. Tim McNair could be another one. We'll go 300 there. We're going to go 500 to the offensive lineman. Offensive line, corner. I mean, depending on the player, you'll see the positions you see typically get recruited quickly, fast, are your O linemen, D ends, and corners, as well as D tackles occasionally. It depends on the player, frankly. Um, but yeah, you're going to see a lot of. It solely depends on the position as well as the player, but it's going to be mostly your tackles, offensive linemen, your outside linebackers, inside linebackers are going to be guys that all look to go relatively quickly. When it comes to recruiting, safeties as well can be quite popular. So you got to make sure to prioritize your board. So like Casey Green and a fullback, we're not going to really put points into him. Jacob Douglas, again, would be a depth guy for us. Greg Harris as well as Matthew Bean are kind of depth guys. Robert McCollum, so forth, so on. But yeah, so that's going to be how we're going to allocate our 6,500 points for here in week 1. Based on this example, we're going to simulate to week 2 and we lose to Wyoming. Again, we're Nebraska. We're not expecting too much, to be honest, but again, we're here to show you guys how to best recruit to build a program that can win championships. Um, and again, recruiting, if you guys end up using the utility tool in your dynasties, such as I do, if you've watched my dynasty series, um, it's completely unpredictable of how a guy's going to progress, much like it is in real life. Whereas if you're using kind of the base game method, all your players are going to progress to be great. So it's really, when it comes to your recruiting strategy, it's solely about traits. Now, if you use the dynasty tool, it's still about traits, but you don't know whether it'll be up or down as far as a guy's progression goes. Alright, so here in week 2, I like where we're at with those 3 guys at the top. Mark Ryan we're pulling away with, and doesn't look as though Michigan or Ohio State or A&M are putting too much into him. So we're going to drop him down to the 300 mark and leave him there. We're going to actually bump McNair to 500 because Georgia Tech looks to be interested. Garcia will leave. Keel Smith we're going to back off to 400. Barron, we need to stay there. Stay there for Pino. Chad Walker, same thing. Francis, I think we're good there. We definitely need to up Herbert McCollum to 500 here to stay in the race for him. Greg Harris, we're going to just pull off the board. We're not that interested. Matthew Bean will stay. Justin Marshall will stay. Eric Preston will need to 500 him to get back into that race with Alabama. Schultz, I want to throw just a dinky little 100 into him because we do want him, but it's not a top priority for us. Dave Jefferson, I did not even realize this guy was 6'4", but yeah, we want him. Joey Copeland also, let's throw 300 into Mr. Copeland there. And then looking through, Tyrone Turner, also a really good player. Same with Ryan Harris. We'll throw 250 into each of those guys. And then Chad Jones looks good. Hmm. Um, we are running a 4-3 defense. Let's get involved with Marshall there. Alright, so that will be how we continue to divvy up our points for the foreseeable future. Guys that we're interested in, like Samson Barnes, we can probably get away with not putting points into him. Hurd, we would need to. Chad Jones, lightly recruited. Just got to keep an eye on these guys down here. So, alright, with that, let's keep on moving, and we'll start picking up the pace here a little bit. Man, 0-2. Nebraska not having a good season, boys and girls. Sorry, I needed a little sip there. Alright. So, we're 2 weeks in the season, obviously 0-2. The more you win, obviously it helps you in recruiting. Like, let's just call it what it is. Hunter Rogers commits to Clemson. That's fine. I don't think he was that big. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a big time player for us as far as that goes. Paul Dottie will pull off the board. Rasheed Rogers, probably not going to be able to get him. Still in the rate. Matthew Bean, we're probably out on. Hurd, we'll continue to monitor. But yeah, as you can see, recruiting wise, we're in the race for a lot of these guys, which is exactly where you want to be. Obviously, being in the lead is the goal. Mark Ryan, we're going to drop all the way down to 100 here. And we got 200 points. Let's drop it into Herbert McCollum, because we need to find a way to kind of catch up as far as bonus goes. So 700 points is going to be our best way to do that. Alright, anyway, we didn't have anybody ready for visits yet, I don't believe. Nope. Alright, cool. Alright, Nebraska gets their first victory on the season. Way to go, boys. Anyway, so yeah, right now is very much kind of the holding pattern of recruiting, where you let your first kind of wave. I kind of break my recruiting down into about 3 to 4 different waves. And you guys will see what I mean as we get into it here. So, we got 3 guys ready to recruit, or ready to visit. We got Zach Garcia. So ideal first visit weekend is week 6. If you can, when you're creating your schedule, have that week 6 visit. It leads you to a very high conversion rate if you have your visit maxed out to actually convert guys and get them signed. You'll also have a good amount of interest from that standpoint. So from there, that's where you got to make sure to kind of capitalize a little bit on some of the. You got to capitalize on making sure that you have that if you have that available. So here we're just kind of cleaning up our board a little bit. Still got some guys that I like where we're sitting just as of right now. For some of these players, and we've trimmed our board down to 25. Now, week 4 is when I'll start looking to identify my low lock cheese. So I'll go to percent locked in the search, less than 25, and I will pull up every recruit that is supposedly less than 25% locked. Now, with that, here is where you definitely need to be looking at overalls first and foremost. If you've scouted guys, you need to make sure you're paying attention to that. But you're just looking to stay to your trend of traits that you're looking to add and build upon to your roster. More than anything is, again, this is a great spot at a lower school for you to try and go find your O lineman, is when you're in low lock cheese percent or low lock cheese, and then really hammer your athletes early on at a small school, and that's going to lead you to trying to find the best offensive lineman for yourself. Is with that. However, there is times where those offensive linemen aren't as plentiful once you get there. So we're just at week 4. We just go to identify them. We're not scouting them. We're not doing anything like that just yet, because we don't have the points available. I do not want to pull points away from the guys that I'm actively pursuing. I know what they are. I know that these guys are program fits for me, and these are guys that we're all still striving to get to that week 6 visit with, right? So that's the biggest thing, and there's the big truckload of guys that we now have visits that are ready for. So with that, week 8, and then we just keep stacking visits. Everybody's coming week 6, unless in this instance you aren't able to. However, our schedule kind of screws us here. So with this guy, we will do week 8 since 6 is not an option. Ideally, you want to stay away from scheduling on bye weeks, unless it's like a guy you're just running away with and you need to get him on campus to get that big point boost to try and push him across the finish line. I get that, right? But for the most part, you want to have it during a game so you can get the in week bonuses from the game itself, assuming your position group that guy plays performs at a high level. And for your, again, positions like quarterback pass for 150, running backs run for 100, wide receivers pass for 250, tight ends is 100 yards receiving specifically for a tight end. Offensive linemen's a combination of the two for your offense. Then your D line is tackles for loss. D tackles, kind of the same thing. So forth and so on. So, alright, and even these guys that are late to the party, we're still going to stack them because we have so many complimentary visits. So with us doing week 6, we were able to get 12 guys We had the one guy that's scheduled for week 8, Jeremy Francis, unfortunately. Um, I'm not sure how that's working out right now, but so Jeremy Francis is our one guy that's week 8. The rest of these guys are all week 6, though. We did lose a recruit to Alabama. Again, if you lose recruits to some schools, you just can't worry about it. You just got to keep moving forward. I don't get too hung up on it. I know that I can easily find somebody else that could replace said guy, and really, really kind of bring it home, if you will. Um, but just do that for this week, trying to get the commitment. But yeah, so also since we're in week 6, virtually from week 4 on is when you week 4 to week about 11 is the time that I'll be making sure that I always have a full recruiting board of 35 players. Reason for that is, I mean, realistically, anything beyond week 10 is kind of a stretch for trying to acquire a player. Um, to have them kind of come. My goal is to try and have all 25 scholarships signed, sealed, and delivered by the end of the regular season. I hate going into the off season um, with a boatload of scholarships to fill. So because of that, that's where our goal is to try and fill as many of our 25 scholarships as humanly possible before we get to kind of the next or to I want to fill as many of those 25 scholarships by the end of a season as possible, just because the off season becomes a bit of a it can be a bit of a crapshoot if you're trying to sign too many guys. So because of that, you gotta be careful. All right, so our week 6 visit was a success. We got an 80 overall D end. We get a 77 tackle, 276 overall left tackles. We have rebuilt our offensive line with those 3 players. As well, we get a stud defensive end that could really grow into something for us with George Pino. So we're off to a good start. Now we have this. All right, we got 2 more visits. We're going to stack that one. We're going to stack. So I'll do the Northwestern game here for Ryan Harris. The other guy I'm going to stack for Casey Green. You're wasting my time. The other guy we're going to stack because of the D tackle, right? But yeah, our recruiting's been a major success so far. Or not a major success, but we've been successful in our recruiting so far up to this point. We're going to try and max Ryan Harris, trying to land a commitment there. But now is the time, since we have points available. We're going to go look at these low lock cheese guys, see if we find any gems that can possibly be late additions to our recruiting class that are going to help us kind of move forward in our dynasty. So we found some good ones, not all of them, but we found some good ones. So Robinson, you're not kind of moving the needle. Payne, you're not worth it. Gore is, yep, we'll go after Norwood with our commitments of the other O linemen. I'm going to pull those guys. And then virtually we added another kind of chunk of good players. We're going to go scholarship them all. Zach Morris, we're going to pull off the board again. Elite athlete, but just doesn't kind of fit what I'm looking to do still. And again, the only reason I'm pulling these guys is because, again, I'd rather invest my points in an 81 overall tight end that I know is going to come in and be a stud for us right away, and another tackle, you know. And then that leaves us at 23. So again, we're going to go fill this board back up. Low lock cheese. We're going to go. There's 508 prospects that still kind of qualify into this realm. So we're going to go back to the athlete route. This is always a good well to kind of shop from, if you will. Another good safety prospect possibly there. Corner. We'll look at him, 69, not bad. Kevin Carter looks good as a middle linebacker. Outside, a little weak. Let's add Eric Scott. Ooh, look at both. Jesus, the 6'6" edge rushers coming out in high volume there. Jeez Louise. And again, when it comes to recruiting, it's just about your flavor of recruits that you want to bring in. Um, you know, it's all just a it's it's just a way to that you gotta build your roster, man. And some people. I'm a true believer in building a full-fledged, full-blown roster. When I build my NCAA rosters, I aim to have the 70 best players in the country, all on one team from 4 to 5 different recruiting classes. That's what I aim to do. Is have the most talent on the board. If somebody goes down with an injury, I'm not worried about it. And as you see, we pick up another commitment there with Tyrone Turner. Get a 4-star commitment from him. Big time get. Alrighty. We're moving and grooving now, baby. We got a good athlete. We've rebuilt the line of scrimmage. So we're going to go week 10, week 10. So week 10 is going to be our next big visit then, with some of these players. I want to max him. But yeah, virtually we're going to do the same thing over again. We're going to scout. See what we got here. Oh, there's a gem. There's another one. One thing you do not want to be in NCAA is ever out scouted or out recruited. When that happens, for me personally, it's like I'm screwed. Especially if you're playing with buddies, you can't be letting your buddies walk all over you with all these great prospects that you could have had, but you just didn't know how to get them. So with that, this board, how our board currently sits, I'm fine with this probably for the rest of the season. I'm going to go offer scholarships to these new additions to our board, and then we're going to kind of just wait to check it out and see what we get here. 600 both of those guys, and we'll throw 50 points at Andrews. And Sean Barnes, and we'll see what happens there. Anyway, so we're at week 8, 2-5. Like, our team's not even good, and yet we're pulling in good recruits that are going to build this team for the future. Now, yes, Nebraska has other things working for them. I wanted to pick a team that wasn't going to win every game, as well as a team that had, some things going for them in recruiting, which is for Nebraska the program tradition, as well as they play in the Big Ten. That's about it. But yes, outside of that, though, even at your smaller schools, this exact strategy is going to work. Now, you got to apply some different sort of tactics a little bit. Be, you got to definitely be doing this exact strategy, but you got to work a lot harder at um, you got to work a lot harder at your low lock cheese guys. The low lock cheese guys are kind of the lifeblood for smaller programs until you get to a point where you're feeling pretty confident about what you're bringing to the table, and build that program up a little bit by winning more games. But by doing that, you give yourself the best chance to succeed. Once you start winning at that program, bringing in your players consistently, with like, I know the Baylor dynasty is going on the channel right now. We had a good recruiting class, but we didn't bring in all these, like, we had 60 overalls, 66 overalls and stuff that we brought in, but we brought in guys with traits that if they develop using the utility tool, that they will be studs for us, you know. And that's ultimately just what we're looking to do here is we're finding traits that we can develop around. And that's all college football is. If you can develop at a high level, then you're going to be just fine most of the time. Alright, so we got more recruits coming here on week 10. We get the victory. That's going to help us with our recruiting efforts. The victory always goes a long way. Plus hitting the goals that you set out for you and your program, or hitting the stat goals, I should say, for that week based on the players, and hopefully more commitments come rolling in. But also a side note, something to keep in mind, your year one of starting a new dynasty is always the hardest year of recruiting that you'll have. Reason for that is you're kind of building, you got to build your you got to build up your kind of coach prestige, if you will. As you, if you will, make a name for yourself coaching, that's where you're really going to start to see kind of the big dividends for your program start to come into effect, as you get better. You're going to get better players the more wins you accumulate, the just winning seasons. Even you're going to be able to adjust your recruiting strategy a lot better. You'll be able to take advantage again, and you'll get more coaching level ups to even be able to go after certain players and get them and look to sign them and get going. So, but yeah, with that, that's for, I mean, the strategy is in play, that you just got to always keep working. You lose a guy, screw it. You can go find somebody that has similar measurables that can, you know, be able to plug and play, make it happen, and get going as far as recruiting goes. Now, I'm trying to think. Oh, there's Mark Ryan. Commitment. Bam. Another one. 5-star commitment. There you go. Right off the get go. And with our commitments we have so far, I mean, Mark Ryan, he's the number one player in the country, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, we signed the number one player in the country. There you go. Easy does it. As you saw, he was an athlete too, which it helps. Again, at times athletes do not get recruited very highly. Not exactly sure why that is. It's it's cheat. It's not cheat code, but it's cheat code to be able to literally go in there and grab these great athlete players. But I'm just playing the game the way the game was designed, and if it helps you guys with your dynasties really grow and build a true program. But yeah, I mean, if you look at even just the 6 guys we've signed so far, we've signed 6 impact players. We got 3 linemen that we can almost plug and play as true freshmen. Um, and, we'll be okay there. George Pino is a plug and play defensive end for Nebraska next year. Tyrone Turner probably going to start in secondary. Mark Ryan could be your starting quarterback if you need him to, or he has the traits to be a running back as well. But I would most likely put him at quarterback. And currently we're sitting at 18th ranked, but that's just because we're working on signing more guys. But that and our team sucks. When you're playing the games, it's a whole different story. You can capitalize a lot more on recruiting when you play than if you're just simulating. Because you kind of get the up, down, if and arounds all the way. So you just got to recruit what you can when it comes to recruiting. And really trying to hone in on, the guys that are going to be difference makers. Again, we got 6 guys that are difference makers for Nebraska as early as next season. So, and by just getting more difference makers, that makes a world of difference for your program, for everything, really. All right, and then we're just scheduling visits here, trying to get guys wrapped up. Did we lose? Troy Norwood went to Florida State, whatever. Not that heartbroken about it. Okay, Florida, they can have Terry. For all I care, we could win this race. Max him. How do we have less bonus points than fucking Wyoming? Alright, well, we'll max him. Corey Andrews looks good. Terrence Gore, we're going to probably sign. We'll go into Copeland there. Alright. So we're up to 30. A big upset win. That's going to be big recruiting points for us there. Upsetting Penn State. W's. Double U's, baby. We'll take that. That's a good job, Nebraska. That's a program turning win right there. Anyway. So yeah, our recruiting overall, again, there's our tight end. There's Corey Andrews. Bang, bang, boom. We signed 8 guys that are all, again, we get difference makers here. Kevin, I don't have the unlock, so Kevin Carter is gone, unfortunately. Alrighty. Yeah, I'll take. Yep, there's that. Love that. Instant commits, when those happen, they're awesome. But reason we offered Nick Hickman is just because, again, depth, size, all those things. probably would be a long-term development at defensive end for us. But again, has some ability that we could still look to capitalize on. I mean, go there and there. But yeah, ultimately, I'm pleased with how this recruiting cycle's panned out. To put it into perspective, again, starting a dynasty is the hardest year to recruit. Again, with me simulating just for the point of showing you guys everything, it works a little bit differently than when you play the games. But we finished 6-6. Let's go, Nebraska, 500 record. That's a victory. Consider they were what, 3 and they weren't good last year. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, we finished 6-6, fairly good record. Not good for Nebraska, but again, if I'm looking at this from a broader perspective, Nebraska very much a rebuilding program. If I were to continue to recruit guys like this, I signed a quarterback. I now have 2 quarterback commits for this upcoming, and we got a lot of lockouts, so that's fine. Just again, I don't have the unlock yet as far as my recruiting goes, so that's the only reason. But yeah, we're just gonna 700 all these guys, the guys that we actually want. You can get off. But yeah, not only have we put pieces in place to really turn this program around quickly, but we're still got some guys out there that we could look to possibly bring in that can still make a difference, So yeah, we're trying to finish strong here. Alrighty, give me those. Oh, we might be able to snag Jared Leak there. Put the points into him. Alright, week 15, and we are all but done with our regular season recruiting. It's been an interesting one, I will say, for simulation and recruiting here. I'm quite pleased with this. Again, our goal is to build the best program. Program, the key word there, guys. But looking at our end of the year recruiting, or end of the season, we signed 10 players, 1 5, 6 4, and 3 3-stars. Again, all 10 of the guys that I've signed are guys I feel as though can be program turning players. You get a quarterback, an 80 overall quarterback that's a dual threat and has a gun in Ryan Harris. Terrence Gore, a 6'4" tight end with 85 speed. Those don't come around very often. You get 3 offensive linemen that are going to protect your quarterback. You get pass rushers and depth at pass rushers, then you get a lockdown corner and a guy that could be a running back, and or you got another quarterback to build for the future that was the #1 player in the class overall. So, alright, we're going to go ahead and just advance to the end of the season. and then we will quickly do the off-season recruiting, and then that's going to be the video. It's I promise if you follow this method each and every year, again, I would go through more seasons if I could to really show you guys how this builds upon each other. And maybe at some point I will do that. But, this video is about what is the best recruiting method to build a true championship winning program, and a program that's going to help you compete very quickly when it comes to your dynasty, whether that's on revamped NCAA 14. I use this strategy for both at the end of the day. So with that, Nebraska's excited with this whatever. So we're just going to go to recruiting. Obviously, those are, I just need to go through this real quick. So we're going to just switch it over to players leaving. Again, typically I would use the utility tool. For this instance of how again, for this video, I'm not going to show you guys, I'm not going to do all that stuff for this, but if we do get into dynasty rebuilds in the future, we will. Players leaving, cool. Good, best of luck to you guys. Nebraska needs new talent. The reason I did this, just transfer requests. We don't have any. That's fine. All right, and then lastly, we'll just hop in and do our off-season recruiting here. We do have the 15,000 points. So how are we going to allocate these? So we do have a handful of guys that I would like. I would say there's 6 guys I really want, and then the rest are kind of whatever. Alright, I'm going to drop 500 points into Jared Leak just because I would like to get him. He's a developmental halfback. I think has some upside there for us. Nick Shaw, not wasting my time. No, not wasting my time with either one of those two. Eric Scott. We'll dump 500 points into him. We're just going to throw 100 into Jake's. And this is me just trying to maximize our recruiting class by getting some of these guys that we grabbed as low lock cheese that could still commit with us. This guy's kind of out of the picture. Alright, so these are the 6 guys that we need to figure out who to get. Tim McNair is going to be probably one of our top rated guys that we aim to get. So we're going to put 3,000 points into him, and hopefully that'll seal the deal for him. Jeremy Francis and Dave Jefferson are both going to receive 3,000 as well, because I think obviously a 6'4" corner and a 6'3", 321-pound D tackle, those guys don't come around as frequently, and these two are very good players that we would love to build our defense around. So that leaves us with about 4,900 points left. Alright. And I got 3 guys. Alright. Anthony Schultz. I like him. Alright, let's go. I'm going to go 2,500 for Schultzy here. Then we got 24 left. I'd rather go all in on Justin Marshall. Solidify. I'm a big trenches guy. I firmly believe that the game of football will forever be won in the trenches, especially at the college level. Athletes are great to have around it, but if you don't have good offense and defensive line play, you're in trouble. So, with that, I'm going to go with that plus. Yeah, nope. The backup plan I had in my head not going to work out based on the player. All right, let's see how we did. Let's finalize this recruiting strategy and let's see how we did. All right, we got McNair, we got Jefferson, we got Francis, we got Schultz, we got Jakes. Nice. So, we ended up with 18. We signed McNair, we got Francis, we got Dave Jefferson, Anthony Schultz commits. We did lose. Oh, we missed out on Justin Marshall by 10 points. Paul Jakes, we did get a commitment from. Eric Scott, we didn't put anything for. Leak ended up at Minnesota. Didn't really care about the rest of these. So, overall, we ended up with a great recruiting class. Third in the country. Third in the country with this year one. Again, if I was doing multi-year, this thing would blow up to be number one in the country. But yeah, let's go just advance to position changes and show you these recruits. So Ryan Harris, again, plugs in, and this is looking at the grand scheme of the roster too. So Ryan Harris plugs in, could start him at quarterback over Jeff Sims if we wanted to. Plus, we got to see how he regresses. Again, if you use the utility tool like I do. Running back, we had a burner, Tim McNair. This guy can come in and be a game changer, especially looking at the depth at running back. This guy's going to come in, be a starter day one, probably a kick returner if I were playing. And, we're off and running with a great, running back to kick it off. Receiver position, that, again, we'll get to that here in just a second. But, again, starting tight end Terrence Gore, beast. We come into our O-line. O-line needs some more depth as well as talent. But, we'll slide Alex Barron down to guard and move him to center or left guard. Again, you can play with that however you want. George Pino comes in, starts right away. Other defensive end, you can play with what other options based on the utility tool. You get a beast, Jeremy Francis, again, possibly going to start for you right away in the middle of that defense. You get Schultz, depending on your scheme. This is not looking good, or depends on your scheme and everything like that you're running. Corner, Dave Jefferson, plug and play starter, another one. Gotta love it. Safety position, not too worried about. And then you look at these guys, you get a really good athlete here that could do a lot of different things. This is Mark Ryan, number one player in the country. But let's start with Paul Jakes. He's a wide receiver. Again, starting wide receiver for us based on everything. I like this guy at corner. And then Mark Ryan, I'm going to just throw him at halfback for the sake of it. So that way you have two starting running backs with good depth. We had a receiver, to really bolster the receiving core. And yeah, I mean, if I was the University of Nebraska and this was truly my dynasty, I would be thrilled to the moon of how I recruited this season, everything of that sort. So with that, I'm going to end this video here. That is the best way to build a program on college football revamped slash NCAA 14. Test out this recruiting strategy. Let me know in the comments how it works for you. If you implement it and do it exactly as I just said, you will build a successful program. It's just a matter of time. If you're in there grinding it out, winning the games, and really putting in the work, this strategy is going to work wonders for you. Again, key reminder tips is figure out what you want. For me, it's athleticism and size. Those are the two things that I look for, and I also want to get quality players. Make sure you scout every single player. Do not guess blindly on a guy. You could miss out huge on a lower tiered recruit that could be a program changer for you. And then lastly, just make sure you're being smart, being aware of the situations you're in as a team. Do not burn points for weeks on end chasing the number one recruit in the country if it's just not going to happen. Do not become obsessed with certain guys. Always be looking, always be hunting, and fill that 25 scholarship limit each and every year to really build a program that's going to help you reach the top. With that, it's Drew to Smash signing off. I hope you all have a blessed day, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.